Good day everyone. Today I'm going to tackle conceptual art. We're going to discuss about the style and what is conceptual art, the origin, artists involved under artworks. Is conceptual art. Unpacking the term of conceptual art is not as straightforward as like any other art. Conceptual art is almost anything. Um, this is because, unlike a painter or a sculptor who will think about how best they can express their idea using a painting or sculptural materials and techniques, whereas a conceptual artist uses whatever materials and whatever form is most appropriate in presenting their idea. But what does that really mean? So, for better understanding, the idea behind the work is more important than the final work. It means that the idea about the work or what the art wants to convey is more important than the work itself. Next, uses images and objects to make the viewer think and to think particularly about what art is and what it means. It means that to create an idea out of gathered images and objects that put all together to make the viewers think of what the artist wants to convey from his work. Next, it rejects the idea of art should be pretty. It means that it rejects the beauty of the creation in the art. The important is just the idea from the art. Next, reject conventional painting and sculpture. So it means it rejects the traditional skill of making an art like painting and sculpture. Therefore, the term conceptual art came to all forms of contemporary arts that did not practice the traditional skills of paintings and sculpture. Next is the style. So what I have said earlier, the conceptual art does not practice a traditional form of art, or it does not follow a particular style form of art. Next, conceptualism could take the form of tendencies such as happenings, performances, arts, and installation. It means that conceptual art could also take a form of art from happenings in our surroundings and also the performances of the other artists or art. Could also be installation by installing something that has that has a idea or make the viewers think on the installed object. Last is photography gained interest. So, captures something that has meaning or idea or something that conveys an idea from a photo. Now let's move to the origins and artists of conceptual art. For your information, there are so many artists involved in the conceptual art, but we will just select the few famous artists that has big contribution to the movement of the conceptual art. Now, what have you observed on the upper right picture? As you can see, it is a inverted urinal porcelain called Fountain in 1917 to 1964 by Marcel Duchamp. It is considered as the first artwork of conceptual art. This work is a replica of a urinal porcelain, which was originally purchased by the artist in 1917 and submit it as a sculpture in an open sculpture exhibition in New York. The bizarre item exemplifies the notion of taking a commonplace object and place it in a new and unfamiliar one, which first defined the concept of the ready-made or found object. Next is Fluxus in 1960s. In early 1960s, concept art was already in use by Fluxus artists. Fluxus is a group of artists that embrace artists from Asia, Europe, and United States. The movement is all about creating an open attitude towards art and broadening the range of reference of the aesthetic towards anything from an object to sound or an action. Here are the famous Fluxus artists. First, Henry Flint. Henry Flint is an American philosopher, musician, writer, activist, and artist. Originated the notion of concept art and practiced the most austere version of it, ushering in a new form of work that exploits and undermines the tautological structures of perpetual logic. As you can see from the picture, he imposed anti-art. Next is Yukono Ono. Yukono Ono is a Japanese multimedia artist, singer, songwriter, and peace activist who was active in a wide range of Fluxus activities in both New York and her native Japan. One of her famous artwork is called Cut Piece, a performance where she will ask somebody from her audience to cut a piece from her black suit, which promote feminism. Next is Joseph Beuys. Joseph Beuys is a German Fluxus artist. His extensive work is grounded in a concept of humanism, social philosophy, and anthroposophy. It culminates in his extended definition of art. One of his famous art is called The Pact in 1969. It symbolizes the dangers threatening the human environment through the misunderstanding of energy and wealth, and symbol of human survival. As you can see in the picture, the art consists Volkswagen bus and a number of wooden sledges. Next, in late 1950s and early 1960s, black painting series was created by Frank Stella, which essential factor of fracture among modernism and counter-modernist practices. The point of this work was to literally emphasize and echo the shape of the canvas, getting the work off the wall and into the three-dimensional space. This was an attack to modernism that gives rise to something that was entirely anti-form. The work of art became about actions and ideas, and from this point onwards, it seems like floodgates had opened and artists had moved into a totally new territory to put an end to modernism. Sol Lewitz in 1967 made an article, Paragraphs on Conceptual Art. In Art Forum was one of the most important writings on conceptualism. The article presented conceptual art as the new avant-garde movement. In fact, the term conceptual art appeared for the first time in this article. The opening of Lewitt's article has come to constitute the general statement of a conceptual approach. In conceptual art, the idea or concept is most important aspect of the work. When an artist uses a conceptual form in art, it means that all of the planning and decision are made beforehand and the execution is a perfectory affair. The idea becomes a machine that makes the art. From this point, it strengthens the idea of in the art, the most important is the idea than the art itself, or the idea way more than the finished product. So here's the references of my report. So that concludes my today's report. I hope you learned something.